So what happened? You were watching a show or
This is also a very fast. If you are thinking about starting your own podcast, where we talk about art, where we talk about poetry, where we talk about maybe something else that's relevant in your own life, and you're like, I just don't know where to start because it's a little overwhelming. I don't know what equipment I need. I don't know if I need a camera. We are here to walk you through that process. Let's begin by talking a little bit about hardware. What's the most basic hardware that you need to start a podcast? It's a microphone. Please get a microphone. Please get a microphone.
No, just use your phone's microphone.
I mean, so if the only thing holding you back is like, oh, I'm just equipment, fine. Then use your phone because your phone is certainly better. Nothing in your phone nowadays is better certainly than phones, 5, 10, 20 years ago for sure. But once you try it out and once you decide like, hey, I actually want to start taking this a little bit more seriously, the first major investment you're going to make is probably in a microphone. The microphone doesn't have to be a crazy expensive one. Like even just getting like a $20 microphone is already a pretty big improvement over, in general, what your phone is going to have. I do want to talk about different types of microphones that you want to consider based on your environment where you're going to be recording. The big thing is that there's a type of microphone called a condenser microphone, and then there's a type of microphone called a dynamic microphone. Matthias, you do a lot of recording and things like that. So like I'm imagining like if we were thinking about what type of microphone to get for you, because maybe as you're filming, you're like, hey, I want to actually also maybe record some clips to make my own like kind of like behind the scenes like podcast or something like that. So like most of the places that you're filming, are they pretty loud? Are they quiet? Are they soundproofed?
It can vary depending on kind of the film or kind of the purpose of the shooting. Because a lot of times like we're filming something, but we're filming like ADR or something like that.
Okay.
So we're filming something specifically for sound.
Okay. If that were me and I was like, okay, I want to prepare for a podcast for that sort of situation, I'd probably lean more dynamic. And the reason I would lean more dynamic, so a dynamic microphone basically is it's less sensitive to noise. So what does that mean? That means that if you're in a room and when the furnace turns on, you can hear the furnace, or when the air conditioner is on, you can hear the air conditioning. Or if you're like us and we got like a big window and lots of traffic nearby, and you're like, I want to try to minimize that as much as possible, the dynamic microphone is going to be better for that because a condenser microphone is going to pick up everything. This is also a very fast and punchy sound.
Yeah.
Because it's super, super sensitive. So the advantage of that is if you have a soundproofed room and you're like, I want to capture all the tiny nuances of my voice, a condenser microphone is going to do a much better job of that. So like if you're doing like voice acting and like you're in like a sound booth or something like that, condenser microphone is going to be the way to go. But I think for a lot of people, if you're like just doing this like in your basement or at home, maybe you have kids, the dynamic microphone is probably going to be the one to go. Other thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I think that so we actually shot a scene kind of near or like on High Street, where it's that big room in the convention center that has that like face.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I had that face thing, and I kind of experienced kind of exactly that because we actually had it was like an artist, and so he was kind of doing this like kind of hanging mic deal, and we had the condenser mic because of the fact that we were. Because aesthetically of what it looked like, we were like we could just actually use it like practically as well. But the problem with that is that again, we were because and it's not even a lot of traffic, so I could just kind of let you know like kind of how much it's picking up because sometimes there can be sounds that you're just not paying attention to because you've intentionally drowned them out in your head, so like you're not even necessarily hearing them, so you're thinking that everything is silent. Or it's quiet enough to where the person can be recording and kind of having a pretty solid sound quality. Yeah. But yeah, when we went back to listen to it back, I was like, "What's that commercial? Where is that commercial coming from?" And we just listened to it. Like we listened out stereo a little bit more. We're like, "Oh, like that's where it's coming from." So we just ended up switching we still use the condenser mic almost as like a prop, but then we use the dynamic mic. We use what did we use? Was it a short? No, it wasn't a short. It was a
We're going to talk about different types of mics, so like we'll give you some examples of what are some condensers that are popular versus what are some dynamics that are popular, so that way that'll help you with your choice if you choose to make an investment. I would, speaking to that situation, if you're in a new environment just trying to get an idea of the sound, please do a sound test. You don't even necessarily even need to talk during the sound test, but just kind of record just the kind of like just the noise to get an idea what the ambient noise kind of sounds like and see what the microphone's picking up versus what it's not. There are ways to control it. We'll talk about software in a moment. So if you're like, I can't get rid of the, even if I have the right microphone, I still can't get rid of all the traffic, or I still can't get rid of it. So we'll talk about things, for instance, like noise gates and also like noise reduction. But the best sound quality is going to come when you have to minimize the use of software to edit the audio. You want as clean audio input as possible just right off the bat.
Especially for overlapping sound, because a lot of software does do a really great job at deciphering, like maybe your specific voice if it's overlaying like maybe like other talking somewhere else, and so then it's just going to try to flatten everything, and you're gonna run into sound issues.
Your voice is going to sound a little muddy, or it can sound a little tinny. It can sound like your voice has just been edited. And it will remove some of the background stuff, but it does come at a cost. You lose some of the range that your voice naturally has. Just to give you an example of the type of microphones to look at, condenser mics, probably one of the most common condenser mics that a lot of people start off with is like a Blue Yeti or a Snowball, which are like, it's like a round microphone. I used to have one.
Like singers and rappers use those as well.
They're a lot of them are running like the lower end ones are like $50 or something like that, and they're fine for starting, but again, they do pick up everything, so just kind of be aware of that. So like Blue Yeti ones, this microphone that you see here, this is from Austrian Audio. One of the reasons I like this microphone is because you have a little bit of control over the direction that it picks up sound from. It's really good for interviews. It's like if I have one person sitting like across from each other, you can kind of still get audio from both. So like if you're doing an interview type setting, this microphone's really good, because if you just have one microphone, you're gonna miss someone's audio. Like for instance, I'm using a lapel mic. I'm not sure if you can see it over here as well, which will probably be my primary audio for this video. Which would be good for me, but even Matthias being over there, it's not going to come in as clear his audio, even though he's literally like right next to me. But it's mostly going to get my voice.
Green screen.
This is right. He's actually in another room, just like usual. So those are some examples of some condenser microphones to check out. This Austrian Audio one is a $300. Like if you get the full setup with two mics, it's about $300. Whereas the Blue Yeti is like $50. So there's a range that you can go to. In terms of dynamic microphones, a common one is Shure has a couple microphones I just want to mention. For those of you who have seen my videos where I have like the silver microphone at home, that's called the Shure MV7. That is a dynamic microphone.
So what happened? You were watching a show or a movie or listening to some native speakers talk, and they say this whole group of words.
One thing I do want to note about dynamic microphones, it's true for any microphone, but because dynamic microphones are less sensitive, you want to kind of figure out where the audio point is. So like when you get a microphone, it's kind of helpful to like do a test where like you start off kind of this, and then also doing it to the sides like this, just to kind of see where does the microphone pick up audio, because all microphones are a little different. Some microphones want you to be a little higher than them. Some of them want you to be a little lower. Some of them want to be on the left. Some of them want to be on the right. So you want to see kind of where they're picking up the audio from. A lot of times these dynamic microphones like the MV7, that microphone costs $250, maybe? Something like that, a couple $100. And it wants you to eat it. It really wants you to be like your lips almost touching like the filter, the pop filter on it. The higher end one, if you're like $200, already expensive for microphones, but the microphones get crazy expensive. The step above that would be the SM7B. That's the one that, in general, radio shows use it. Professional podcasters use it. That microphone, in general, is you're looking at like probably about $400. The last thing I'll mention is that a lot of these higher end microphones, in terms of hardware, are not going to be able to operate just on their own. You're going to need what's called like phantom power. You're going to need something that basically gives it power. And then you may also need like a mixer or a soundboard. Now, one thing I will note is a lot of soundboards also have power included. So for instance, the soundboard that I use, when you see my silver microphone, the soundboard I'm using for that is a Rodecaster, and that also gives power to my microphone too. Again, if you get the soundboard, again, the one I use is a Rodecaster, that will give you power, and it also allows you to get multiple inputs, because that's the next thing we'll be talking about. Because if you're doing a podcast, there's a good chance that it's not just going to be you. A lot of times people starting podcasts have a co-host, or to do interviews or things like that, which means you're going to need multiple inputs. You're going to have multiple microphones, and you're like, how do I get multiple microphones into my one computer or whatever it is that you're using to record? And so let's actually talk a little bit about that, because that kind of covers our basis for hardware for microphones.